Most people choose trail shoes for hiking by looking for the softest cushioning possible. But after testing these, I think comfort over a long hike comes down to three things: cushioning, stability, and how secure your foot feels on top of the shoe. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 of the most comfortable trail running shoes that I'd actually use for hiking, long walks, and full days on your feet. Some are soft and protective, some are more stable, and one shoe genuinely surprised me more than any other shoe this year. And that's where I'd start, with the Salomon Ultra Glide 4. Now it has 41 mils of cushioning in the rear foot, 35 in the forefoot, giving you a 6 mil drop, which is really comfortable and gives you a nice transition when you're walking on flat surfaces, so if you're traversing or when you're going uphill. That's thanks partly to the nice rocker geometry, so the heel curve at the back and then the more aggressive curve towards the front of the shoe really helps with the push-off phase of the gait cycle. Then underneath the shoe, you've got these interesting relief spheres, which Salomon say help to relieve and reduce the amount of pressure and impact when you're walking. And we've got 4mm lugs with Salomon's Contra Grip outsole. So you've got a relatively sticky outsole, which is better than what we saw in the previous iteration of this shoe, although it's not built for really deep mud. Then it's actually a surprisingly stable shoe despite the amount of max cushioning you get underneath your foot. That's partly thanks to this large sidewall on the outside and the inside of the heel. This comes up, cradles your ankle, helping to control those pronation moments when you're walking uphill or downhill. Now on top of the shoe, we've got an excellent quick lace system, which really just tightens up all along nice and evenly, very quickly. Then you've got a relatively tapered toe box, so it's not ideal for those of you with a wider foot. However, it does come in a wide version as well as a normal fit. Now another thing to take note of is that it has quite an aggressive toe spring, so that's where the shoe curves upward quite a lot, and that can hold your toes in slight extension. If you're someone who gets sensitivity in the ball of the foot or in the big toe joint, this may not be the ideal option for you. However, if you're looking for a stable, max cushion shoe for spending hours on your feet, this is an excellent option to begin with. Next up, we have one of the most reliable shoes on the market, and that's the Brooks Cascadia 19. So yes, there's been 19 iterations of this, and it's proven to be one of Brooks' most popular trail shoes. It's a versatile option that can be used for walking, hiking, or for running. It's got quite a balanced cushioning underneath your foot, which means that you sink into it a little bit, but it's not overly soft, and that's because there's a lot less cushioning under your foot compared to what we saw on the Salomon. So there's 35 in the rear foot, 29 in the forefoot, giving you a 6 mil drop as well. Underneath we've got Brooks' Trail Tack outsole, which is known for being relatively grippy, and we've got 3.8mm lugs, so it's giving you relatively good traction and it's really sticky for wet paths. Then as we move up the shoe, we've got some sidewalls similar to the Salomon but nowhere near as big, so it's a bit more subtle of support and therefore more of a classic neutral shoe. We've got a much wider toe box on this, although it doesn't come in a wide version like we saw on the Salomon, and a great lockdown on top. Now it's not as aggressive as what we saw on the forefoot of the Salomon, and it does have a trail adopt plate that runs through it. That just gives you some protection under the ball of the foot in case you hit a hard or sharp rock. You're just getting a little bit of extra protection in there. It's relatively stiff as a result of having that plate in there, despite not having as much cushioning, and it's known for being one of the most durable and reliable shoes on the market. So if you want a steady Eddie, a shoe that's going to serve you for miles and miles, that you're guaranteed to know what you're getting underneath your foot, with a good ground contact feel and pretty good grip, then it's hard to look past the Brooks Cascadia 19. Then a really interesting shoe that you may not have heard of is the Kailas EX 330. Now this is a relatively lightweight shoe. It's got supercritical foam, so really highly energetic cushioning, so if you wanted to move at faster paces, it gives you a really nice spring underneath your foot. But if you're moving on a slower trail or you're spending long periods of time on your feet, it's got ample amount of cushioning and protection underneath your foot. Not only that, it's got a vibrant mega grip outsole and it's got slightly different lugs than what we've seen in the other shoes. So we have 6mm lugs that run along the outside of the shoe to give you grip on those lateral aspects when you're changing direction or if you're carrying a heavier backpack. And then centrally we've got 4mm lugs, and then we've got a washboard lugs at the back, so different direction to give you extra grip when you're going downhill. As we move up the shoe, you can see some large sidewalls on the outside and inside as well. One of the downsides of this shoe is it's slightly tapered in the toe box, so not ideal if you've got a wide foot, but it does have a dual lacing system, which is excellent if you need some space and the extra ball of the foot, because you can just loosen up the bottom half of the shoe but tighten up the top half to give you exceptional lockdown. So when we talk about being secure on top of a shoe, the Kailas does this better than a lot of shoes on the market. So an excellent option if you want a lightweight, max cushion shoe to do long days on the trail with a dual lacing system that's surprisingly comfortable. Then we have one of the most max cushion shoes in our list today, and that's the HOKA Challenger 8. That's one of the most popular shoes on the market, and there's a big reason for that. It has HOKA's classic CME V8 cushioning, which is quite balanced overall. So it's not too soft, which would make the shoe unstable, but it's also not too bouncy or too firm either. So it really strikes a good balance here for all day comfort. It's got a really broad base underneath your shoe, which increases the amount of contact that you have with the ground. It has 4mm lugs to give you exceptional grip when you're in some deeper mud or on more technical trails. And then on top of the shoe, we've got an excellent lockdown on the heel and the midfoot. Can be a bit snug on the midfoot, so if you're someone with a higher instep, may not be ideal. It is a little bit tapered in the forefoot, but those of you with a broader foot are in luck because there is a wide version of the Challenger 8. So we've got options for everybody here really. Loads of protection underneath your foot, a gentle rocker that's not too aggressive in the forefoot, and it's quite stiff in the forefoot as well despite not having a plate in there, so you're getting lots of protection underneath your foot. And then we can look towards the ASICS Trabuco 5, which just came out this year, and it's a really excellent adaptation to what we saw in the Trabuco Max 4. First of all, the FF Blast Plus cushioning is different than what we see in the road shoes, so it's denser, firmer, to give more protection underfoot, but also to give you a stable base despite the volume of cushioning that we have in this shoe. There's 40mm in the rear foot, 35 in the forefoot, giving you a classic 5mm drop. Underneath the shoe we've got ASICS grip and 4mm lugs, so you're getting lots of grip there, and the ASICS grip is known for being very durable and very sticky on wetter surfaces. We don't have as big of sidewalls in the ASICS as what we had in the HOKA or in the Salomon, but because the cushioning is quite firm and dense, it adds extra elements of stability alongside a big base of support and lots of sole flare, which is where the sole comes out wider than where your foot sits in the shoe, again just increasing the amount of contact you have with the ground. Then on top of the shoe, we've got an exceptional lockdown, that the tongue is a little bit too thin for their liking, especially if you don't enjoy getting a little bit of bite in the front of the ankle, and it's got a slightly low heel cup at the back, so if you're someone who puts orthotics into the shoe, that may not be ideal. Then we've got a good fit in the toe box, which is relatively normal, and as far as I know it doesn't come in a wide version at the minute. But it's an exceptional option if you want a slightly firmer shoe. That's a max cushion shoe and it's quite stable for spending long periods of time on your feet. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you tried any of these out before? There's links to them in the description if you want to learn more about them or check out the latest prices. And otherwise, if you watch regularly but you haven't subscribed, please consider it, as there's one thing that you can do for free that makes the biggest difference to the channel.